What?
So at which point do you make it to the big network show, which was the one you hate?
Oh, dear.
I know you don't like it, but that was the biggest show you were on.
I'm trying to say, yeah, there had been demands for improvement because the central character and the supporting characters were too comic, too camp. There was a demand for improvement or well, reinventing the wheel, as my father sometimes put it. So I retained that attitude or objective of improving once I went public.
But besides you, who was making those demands?
Who was making the demands?
Yeah, I mean, who else was trying to improve
about
Underdog?
Whom?
Underdog. I think you might have been the only one. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't.
What?
I could be wrong, but I think you might be the only one who tried to do that.
I never saw anything in print, but here and there, I would hear a few people, just average citizens, casually talking or gossiping, or sometimes I spoke directly to a couple of people, and they said Underdog was just silly.
It's kind of a shame you didn't have a social media ability back then. Could have started. They have all sorts of petitions online and.
Yeah, that would have been.
Oh no! There never was any such thing as the internet.
I know.
In the past, or once I went public.
It's you could have used it. Could have been very helpful.
Oh boy. Yeah, in 1984, I went on my first big-scale publicity campaign in conjunction with Underdogs having a milestone anniversary. In 1986, I first touched base with Rich Brown and Beyond Vaudeville. Well, I didn't know where to contact them. I didn't go after them. They looked me up. They sent me a letter about the next live stage variety show at Columbia University in New York City.
And you filmed that, and that was shown on where? That was a TV show, local cable.
No. That first Beyond Vaudeville performance I did was strictly stage. There was a filming of it, which I got a copy of my performance on video cassette later, but it was not put out on TV the normal way. It did become a talk show a bit later, but the stage shows were still going on. The stage shows were annual, but the talk show would be several times a year.
So is it from that show that somebody saw you perform and then you got invited to the Stern show? Is that they used to get their guests?
Yeah.
They would watch Richard's show and kind of take the guests off of that. But you didn't know anything. How'd that happen?
Yeah, who contacted you?
One of the TV show staff who worked on it, she telephoned me and asked, would I want to do Underdog on the Howard Stern show? Who? I had never heard of him. She said, he's famous on radio. Well, that's how I got started. But I never heard his radio show because whenever I listened to radio, it was always to classical music. This woman said the TV show was very highly rated. So they had heard of me through Beyond Vaudeville. I don't know if they called Beyond Vaudeville or witnessed a performance.
And then what happened?
I asked, how does Howard handle the show? Obviously, he's an MC, but how does he behave toward his guests? And the woman said, "Oh, he's fanciful, fun, and comic. Comic? No. Oh no. I told the woman, no, I was very serious with Underdog, and she understood that. But then I had to tell her about how another TV host that was usually comic deviated from his pattern with a guest he once had in the past. Okay. In the past, on one of the Philadelphia TV channels, was a host named Dr. Shock. He wore a tuxedo and kind of greasy, I don't know what you put on hair in those times that made it stand out thickly on the sides or the crown of the head. Well, that's how his hair looked, and he also had some rather grotesque face makeup. He hosted old-time horror movies as Saturday afternoon TV matinees. And once in a while there would be a break in the movie as we went back to Dr. Shock for a while. He talked about something, or he had this cute little girl with him all the time, sitting on a table while he was standing alongside the table. Sometimes he had guests, but I didn't see them. And other viewers said that he made wisecracks or sometimes teased the guests.
With a name like Dr. Shock.
What?
With a name like Dr. Shock.
Yes. However, one time he had veteran actor John Carradine as his guest. Do you remember him?
Yeah, that's pretty big get.
They're related to Kung Fu Guy.
What? What?
He's related to the Kung Fu Guy.
That was David Carradine
so I wouldn't
in
be
Kung
mean
Fu.
to him.
John
Yeah,
was his father.
Yeah. 'Cause
All right, but the point is, Dr. Shock didn't make any wisecracks or tease John Carradine.
Could
He
you
was
be afraid
serious and respectful with him. Okay, so I explained
well, if your
to...
brother's Kung Fu,
What?
if your brother is Kung Fu, no one's going to mess with you.
What has Kung Fu got to do with anything?
Pretty scary stuff.
Huh?
It's pretty scary.
That's beside the point.
I
That was not John Carradine. That was his
brother.
son David, and it was a lot later. I'm talking about how Dr. Shock treated John Carradine with respect. So when this woman on the Howard Stern show staff said that Howard was comic, I told her about the one time that Dr. Shock and John Carradine were together, and the attitude, the atmosphere was completely different. Because I was serious. I wanted Howard Stern to treat me with respect, because I was afraid when the woman said he was comic. She said that I had to come to the TV studio to audition. Now she called me on a Monday. I had to go for the audition just 2 days later, the Wednesday of that week. Yes, the producer of the show was there. His name was Mr. Buchwald, and a few other staff people. But Howard himself was not there. I wanted very much to talk to the top brass about how my performance and my character needed to be treated with respect. And I asked those people, will Howard be here soon so I can talk to him? But he never came. And then they said, I passed the audition, I had to come and make my first appearance on the show that same Friday. All right, so I had not seen an episode of that show the normal way. And the staff people I talked to had been evasive. So I was really scared when I made the trip on Friday for my debut on that show. When I got to the studio, I saw some other guests waiting in line. Yes, I tried to find out from some of them, how did Howard Stern behave while on camera. One of them just said, you never know what he's going to do. He's unpredictable. That scared me more. Also, one of his assistants, Stuttering John, came into that room then. I asked him about Howard, and he said, "Oh, he's funny, comic. He's just unpredictable." I tried to tell him that I needed to be treated with respect because I still didn't see any sign of Howard himself. But I didn't find out from Stuttering John all the information I needed. I was taken into the studio room. They were setting up chairs. I saw where Howard was going to be. Was I going to be on stage with him or at some other level? And then I looked to the side. Oh no! There was an easel art stand there, with maybe an easel or some big board with instructions. Oh, brother. They insisted Howard was to be addressed formally as Mr. Stern. Yeah. What I really got horrified at was instructions saying not to touch intimate body parts.
So he was ahead of all that hashtag Me Too, I guess.
What?
Never mind. He was ahead of his time, I guess.
No, this was... No.
Was it for you not to touch him or for him not to touch you?
Or were you not supposed to touch yourself?
The guests were not supposed to touch themselves in intimate areas.
Were there any guests that looked like they were going to do that?
No.
Well, what kind of guest would require that kind of sign?
Well,
I can understand your concern.
Please, when I looked at the other guests who were going to be on my episode, I saw at the time that wild hairdos, fat props, and sometimes outlandish clothes, but still decently covering the body, had made the scene long before. This, when I was first contacted to be on Howard Stern, it was 1992. So things like profane language, immodest dress, and sexual explicitness had been in vogue for quite some time. When I took my place with the other guests in the seating gallery, the opening sequences were put through, and then I still hadn't seen Howard, so I could talk with him. I didn't see him until he came out into the room, into the studio, and sat down in his chair. I couldn't believe how he looked when I saw him. Sunglasses, some extreme makeup like lipstick smears, strokes on the face, and his wild hair. This is national television? Good grief! Oh dear, what are they going to do to me? What have I gotten into? At one time when Howard finished with one guest and there was a break, he went out, and one of the technicians came on saying that it would be my turn on the next. What was the term he used? Set? Well, I tried to explain to him please tell Howard he's got to be respectful with me. I tried to tell him about Dr. Shock, but he cut me short. He went out, and I hadn't had a chance to explain my seriousness, my mission, my objectives to the top person. And then the top person was so untidy on national television before goodness knows how many people. So when he called for me and I stood up and I told him that I was portraying Underdog, he said, Underdog was just a silly show. So was the Batman TV series, and there was a lot of complaints about that, demanding improvement. I've always done Underdog much more seriously and respectfully, and artistically on stage at conventions and a couple of variety shows. Howard called me up and, my music started. I started to dance, but he interrupted me. What are you trying to prove? I don't understand what you're doing at all. And I had to scold him, saying, I'm portraying Underdog respectfully and meritoriously through dance. I started back to my seat, but Howard said, no, come on, we want to see more. I thought he was trying. I thought he was through with me because of his attitude and tone of voice, but he said he wanted to see more. Yeah. All right. So I came back. I finished my number. I thought I had done a good job, but then I had to wait in the gallery until the rest of the guests had come on, and then I went down the hall. I forget where I was headed for, and I was thinking, oh, good grief, that guy just looked terrible, and he didn't show me any respect at all. I never got to talk with him beforehand. Stuttering John came on the scene, and he wanted to talk with me, so I did have a conversation with him, but it wasn't on camera.
Well, that's because it would have taken forever.
What?
It would have taken forever.
Huh?
To have a conversation with him.
Stuttering John asked me what I thought of the show, and I thought, it's much too immodest, and he's totally inappropriately dressed, and his antics, his those house rules, and his use of sexual terms could get me into trouble.
Because your parents would have been upset?
Huh?
Because your parents would have been upset?
Well, I had moved into my own apartment in 1977, so many trips I went on, and some performances I did as Underdog and some other characters, I didn't tell my parents about because, since I no longer lived with them, it really wasn't their business. So I still didn't know the first thing about the Howard Stern TV program when they called me, had me audition, and had me debut. They didn't know the first thing about it. But after I made that first episode and had seen its objectionable nature for the first time, I thought, oh, good grief. Oh, I might get into serious trouble. I can't tell my parents about this. They'd never forgive me. Stuttering John raised the subject of Underdog's power pill. Do either of you remember that?
Vaguely.
In the mid-'80s, First Lady Nancy Reagan was handling her major anti-drug campaign. There was a lot of emphasis on against taking drugs in pill form or for energy, for escape moods like you get with some other drugs. So in the mid-'80s, when I was making Underdog appearances in conventions, some people came up to me and said, don't you realize Underdog was a drug addict by taking that energy pill? This put me in a lot of trouble because when I watched the original cartoon shows, some of them showed Underdog becoming exhausted, the way anybody becomes after expending energy. So the average citizen would take some commercial recharge, a drink or a food to recharge his batteries, so to speak. In the case of Underdog, in some episodes, not everyone, he was made to become exhausted from overexertion, and he needed something to recharge his batteries in a hurry. So he always said at those times, the secret compartment... Wait, can the camera see my ring?
Where you get it pointed there?
Can you get the camera to get a close-up of it?
Just hold it there. Just hold it like that, we'll get it.
Underdog always said, the secret compartment of my ring I fill with an Underdog super energy pill. Oh boy, this is difficult to open. It does open, but it's a little tricky. Oh, here it is.
Right. That's when you really need the energy to open the compartment.
Yes.
Child safety.
What?
It's child safe.
It's what?
Child safe, like the bottles, when you have to push down and twist.
Well, there is a big lump of plastic inside this ring that's made to look like the energy pill. You can't remove it. But the pill was only a revitalizer. It was not his source of strength. Instant replay and Gatorade are two examples of true life commercial rechargers in a hurry. So I had to explain that to Stuttering John.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the people in the mid-'80s, in the midst of this campaign, ridiculed me for apparently being a pill popper. I tried to explain what Underdog had done originally, but they wouldn't listen. And then sometime during that time, people came up to me saying, the Underdog episodes are being rerun in this area, but the parts of the stories showing Underdog taking the pill have been deleted.
Oh.
Well, see, that way there was a break in continuity, and then well, I'm not sure about adults, but children watching the cartoons at those times were never able to figure out how was Underdog weak at first. How did he suddenly get his powers back?
That would be confusing.
They could always just say it was a chewable vitamin. Kids were taking those even in that era.
Yeah, in the 80s there was a lot of
yes.
chewable vitamins.
Yes, at least they knew they were vitamins. They were not illegal drugs.
Yeah.
And it did not. Those vitamins did not make the consumers super powerful.
Right, that's something else.
If you want a real example, a more familiar example with a fictional character who was dependent on a substance in every story for temporary acquisition of superpowers, that was Popeye.
Oh, that's right.
Remember, in every story, Popeye started out as just an
Narcos.
average person, but then when all the stories or when all points of the stories added up to some enormous crisis, he had to gulp down spinach, and it didn't need to digest. He gulped it and he became strong instantly. But the strength didn't last that long. By the beginning of the next story, the effects of the spinach had worn off.
I noticed they never censored Popeye.
That's right.
Yeah, see, the vegetables.
And he had a serious addiction problem.
I know. To green
Well, the creators of Popeye were trying to get kids to eat spinach because it was a vegetable and it was nutritious. But I found when eating spinach, it didn't taste very good by itself. Many years later, long after I had grown up, and I occasionally had spinach as part of my dinner, I had to make it taste better by putting butter and salt on it.
Yep. You need to fix it up a bit.
Yeah, the spinach
Butter and
Popeye
salt.
ate was raw. It wasn't cooked.
Yeah. Definitely in
It was canned.
his canned form, yeah.
Well,
noticed
yeah,
he had-
it was in a can.
He had enough strength to pop the can open, which is
Yeah.
incredible, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Inconsistent.
Eh,
There
right?
you go.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
should we wrap it up for this show?
Oh gosh.
We'll do another one.
Oh please.
You wanna add something else?
Please let me keep in order. Okay. After my premiere on Howard Stern, I was shocked about how the program was. The next day was a Saturday, the weekday it normally aired. So I watched an episode. That was the first time I saw an episode in the normal manner. And it was absolutely vulgar. Before the program itself went on, there was a warning on the screen that said this program contains mature adult material. Viewer discretion is advised. Oh boy.
Well, that was par for the course for that channel at the time, if I remember correctly. They had a lot of shows like that.
Yeah, but don't you see? Because I hadn't seen Howard Stern's show before appearing on it, and now that I had seen an episode for the first time, I was really badly shaken.
That's what you got to do.
And I was still
research,
afraid to
right?
tell my parents about it.
Buyer beware.
That's right. But why did you do it
I
again?
have to say
That's what I'm gonna say.
that was the show I saw you on first.
A lot of people did.
So,
Oh dear.
you know,
Because several sequential episodes I watched at home before being called to appear on it again were equally obscene. I was really distressed. Yeah.
Okay, so why do we...
My parents found out about it because my father said he had received a very strange phone call. My episode was shown 2 Saturdays after I watched it for the first time, and my parents were stark raving mad. They were really angry at me. Well, over time, when I had to go out in public, when I had to leave for work to catch a bus, or when I went to other commitments, people began recognizing me and teasing me with obscene questions or statements made originally by Howard or one of his assistants. My parents refused to believe that he and the program had been complete strangers. So over time, I was recognized for only having been on that show. People didn't care what my theme had been, or they were made to believe that Underdog was Howard's creation, because at the time that I first appeared, the original cartoon show hadn't been rerun in quite some time. So many people who watched my Howard Stern first episode and were becoming acquainted with Underdog for the first time took me at face value. They jumped to the conclusion that Howard Stern had created Underdog, and Underdog was R to X rated. So I was a real laughingstock and public enemy ever since.
If you had such a terrible experience, why did you go back?
Huh?
Why did you do it again?
The woman in charge of booking guests said that Howard was going to do a Hollywood Squares episode. No, I won't come back. All the other guests are respectable people, and look at how the original show is, well, family friendly. Howard won't make fun of you. Oh boy. I agreed to come, but when they had me take my spot in the grid, it was on the top level, and they quickly pulled away portable staircases. As the show progressed, I saw that Howard was still being vulgar and most of the other guests exemplified the worst of human vices. The only other respectable guest was Gene Reynolds. I didn't get a chance to talk with him afterward, or even before, because I think, when I walked into the room where the grid was, I saw how some of the other squares were marked. Oh no. They were all obscene or sexually explicit words or names. Only Gene and I had respectable designations. When Howard first, or rather when one of Howard's guests called on me to be the next panelist, Howard Stern didn't ask me a game question immediately. He talked about my underdog portrayals in general, but he asked, wait, I think I have it here. I know it's here somewhere.
Very small print.
Huh?
It's very small print.
I know I can't read it clearly without my glasses. I shouldn't wear them when I'm performing.
You can just tell us.
I'm trying to see if I can find how I paraphrased it. Oh, get me my glasses. Oh boy, I know it's here somewhere. Oh boy. Oh my. Oh yeah, here's something. Society always frets about violence on TV, setting bad real-life examples. Howard Stern's R and X-rated comedy brought a real tragedy in life to me. Oh yeah, if the show, its norms, and contents prove so offensive, why didn't you just leave? I was made to sign releases before any taping was done. I was afraid the staff would take action against me. But also, I was a long way from home. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know my way around the premises. And since I had no car and had been brought in by limo, I could not return home by itself. Oh yeah, here. Howard and his minions besmirched the good names of both the character and me by asking these questions in either the Hollywood Squares episode or other episodes. Does Underdog bark like conventional dogs? Does he belch? Aha, here. Does he excrete wastes? Howard's exact words were, do any of your portrayals depict him going off somewhere by himself to go to the toilet? Oh, brother. Does he lust after his girlfriend? Sweet Polly Purebred. Mm-hmm. Does he fight with other superheroes for superiority or supremacy? Does my dancing depict him in any of these situations? The answer to all those questions was no.
Trolls definitely weren't invented with the internet, were they?
Excuse me?
It's a thing called trolling nowadays, where someone baits you in an attempt to get you to respond.
So we're almost at 2 hours.
Huh?
We're almost at 2 hours. So that's okay. So
Could we do a repeat performance soon?
we're gonna do. This is what we'll do. We're gonna Suzanne.
Please.
Well, we're gonna do
All right,
another
so
one.
I was in very bad trouble after having been on the Howard Stern show. There was a third episode, which was like the Academy Awards. The woman in charge of guests said I had been nominated for
Suzanne,
an
hold on.
award, and
So
I
why
had to
don't
come
we
to
do
it.
this?
What?
So why don't we do this? We'll do another interview. Okay, where you're going to tell us what happened after the second episode, and then we'll talk about other stuff because this is not that important.
Well, let me just say this.
But we'll come back.
Please,
Okay.
please.
Okay.
Sometime later in 1992, I received a letter from the area just around Atlantic City that an Underdog fan club had been formed. They had admired my mission for many years. Now I was contacted by the program, the Howard Stern program again, to be on an awards show. I had been nominated for an award, and I had to be there to accept it. I said no, and I had to repeat myself many times. But then the woman said, hold on a moment. She put me on hold, and when she came back, she said, you must come. Anybody nominated for an award is mandated to be there. So I was stuck. I was extremely afraid when I made the trip. There was a TV in the room where I was waiting. I had time to myself. Oh no, there was an advertisement for the episode that I was to make. The award figurines were pornographic. I ran out of the room. I tried to get out of the studio, but I didn't know my way around, and two women overtook me and forced me to return. So when the episode started airing, I was seated at a table, but I think my back was to the camera. I had my face down. I wasn't going to let the viewers see me. And then someone said, for best choreography, the winner is people were calling me Underdog Lady. Stern invented that term, and it was misleading and false. And the public kept calling me that for years afterward. Well, I had won the award, but since I had seen what the figurines looked like, I went up to give my speech. I said, I'm not accepting this award, and I went over all the misleadings and maltreatments I had gone through, and how Underdog was now mistakenly believed to be Howard's creation. I know I made a lot of denunciatory statements, and you, Howard Stern, are responsible. You made the program what it was, and now you'll pay the consequences when you least expect it. Goodbye. Well, I thought the audience would be struck still, silent. But when I left the platform, they were screaming and applauding loudly and howling and even dog barking. And then shortly afterward, that Underdog fan club wrote me back saying they were disbanding. They were abandoning me. They said We have been besieged with complaints from parents and friends about your latest Howard Stern appearance. How could you possibly have accepted? You should know better. You should have known he was putting you on, and you made a bad example for our children. So obviously, you don't deserve our respect. Okay, but I had no chance to contact that disbanding club, that I didn't make the appearance willingly. I didn't get a chance to explain how I was forced to be on it.
But I was going to mention when you said you'll pay for this, if that's what you said, he actually did, because he ended up on a really bad TV show, America Got Best Talent or something.
Well, before that,
the
the original show that I had been on was canceled. Now, he deserved that, but I asked, did I, or maybe my award speech, have anything to do with it? Yeah, I had a contact at that time named Kevin. He said, you're partly responsible. There were a lot of reasons, but I was never officially acknowledged, credited, commended, or respected in any other way if I did have anything to do with that cancellation. There was no reference to me in the official documents.
I don't think they tell you when you get canceled. They just tell you you're canceled. They start taking the props out of the studio as you're doing the live show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who knows what it's usually the ratings that cancel the shows. But I'm sure that there's a benefit to that, because you made those appearances in a larger audience. People got to know you. More people got to know you. So you got to take the good with the bad.
The majority of them didn't respect me. They teased me. They insulted me. They made false accusations. They made me a target of ridicule and alleged drug abuse and sexual lust.
Well, that's almost as bad as Harvey Weinstein, I guess. No, I'm kidding. So can we wrap it up now for this time, and we'll do another one later, because we're going to be out of time.
All right.
And then,
Okay.
So, all right. So let's say goodbye. You can wave, and then we'll do another one. So this is part one of many, and Suzanne's going to share many more stories that have nothing to do with Howard Stern or any of that stuff. More stuff with the better shows, right? And performances. So thank you very much, Suzanne, for talking to us and sharing the stories. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
It was good to see you again.